A beautiful September morning in 2001, the day that changed everything. We said we'd never forget. And here we are, almost 25 years later. We must tell our stories of that day so it never happens again. And we continue to have hope for the future and our future generations. You know, I think we take a little too much for granted. Are we really any safer now than we were during 9/11? Where were you when you heard about 9/11? I was working at the Flamingo Las Vegas, but it happened to be on my day off. 9/11 fell on a Tuesday, so I was home that day, and I was awakened to a very early morning phone call. And it was my mother. And she said, "Susie, turn on CNN. The country's under attack." How did you hear about it? Early morning phone call? Well, I stayed on the phone with her and we watched CNN until those towers collapsed. And when that happened, I was on my end, she was on her end. We both gasped. It was horrific. We weren't believing our eyes. And my father, who was still alive at the time, but he was 80 or 81 years old, World War II veteran, he said, if the Army would take me back, I'd go fight those bastards myself. He was so mad. He was beside himself, just like we all were. So the next day, Wednesday, September 12th, I returned back to work. And I noticed immediately more security presence. When I pulled into the employee parking structure, I was flagged down by security, and they had me open my trunk. They wanted to search my car, which I was happy to let them do. And that was the new normal now. All the cars going in to the parking structures are being searched. At that time, we had an employee parking structure on the north side of the building, which is no longer there because now it's the Link Promenade. But yeah, that's how it was back then. As you know, the front desk, I worked at the front desk, and the front desk is the lifeblood of a hotel. And people were coming down to the front desk for many different reasons, but mostly people were coming down to extend their stays. They were just staying over one day at a time. The hotel was offering a distressed passenger rate, which, if I recall, it was something like, I want to say $39. Don't quote me on that because it's been 25 years, right? They did not have any resort fees then. Interestingly enough, though, right before 9/11, they started imposing this new fee on the rooms called an energy surcharge. And after 9/11, that fee disappeared. So just a little tidbit of information there. The hotels were trying at that time to find ways to put some fluff fees on your reservations. And, after 9/11 for a long time, I didn't see any extras except taxes. Okay, again, people were coming down, extending their stays one night at a time. A lot of people were, stranded. They were stranded there. They were desperate to get out. A couple people, oh my gosh, the stories. I remember a lady walked up to me and she said, I came in Monday. I arrived Monday for a conference, and my husband works at the World Trade Center. That's exactly how she said it to me. He works at the World Trade Center. And she hadn't been able to get a hold of him since Monday night. And she was frantic. She wanted to get out of there. She didn't know what was going on with her husband. None of her family had any information for her. There was no way she could leave. Yeah. Can you imagine being in a situation like that? There were no rental cars. They were all gone. There, of course, all the planes were grounded. No, the airspace over the country was closed. And here was this poor lady, And I don't know, the way she was talking to me, I don't know if she had gotten medicated somehow, but I really think she should have been. Because that's just too much. That's too much of a harsh reality for anyone to deal with by themselves. And so I don't know whatever became of her. I remember extending her room and wishing her luck. Yeah. I was 2,500 miles away from New York City, but the ripple effect was felt everywhere. The travel industry has never been the same. You've got a whole generation of kids that were born after 9/11 that never lived through it like we did. They'd never been to an airport where they didn't have to walk through a metal detector or they didn't have to take their shoes off. They never experienced traveling by just checking in at a desk, walking to your gate, and getting on a plane. Yeah, things we used to take for granted. But yeah, people were desperate to get out of Las Vegas. We still had people checking in, and those were the people that lived in surrounding states that were driving in anyhow. So those people still came in. I heard a couple stories, extreme stories, of people that wanted to leave so badly that they took a taxi to a car dealership and bought a car so they could drive it home to their home state. That's pretty desperate. Yeah. So I remember too that the Wednesday and Thursday after 9/11, the 2 days following, thousands of reservations were canceled. And by Friday, I walked into work, clocked in, immediately got called in the office, and was told, because due to the fact that they've had thousands of cancellations, they had closed down several floors of the hotel. And because my seniority wasn't very high at the time, I was going to be laid off. So yeah, I got laid off. And at that time, wow, I think unemployment was something like a whopping $300 a week. Yeah. Let me tell you, I really had to squeak by. I was renting at that time, but I did manage. I just didn't go anywhere or do anything. I cut back on everything. I remember one thing that I did do just to get out of the house was to go to the library and spend time at the library because it was free. So, not the cakewalk of my layoff during COVID. Unemployment then was something like $900 a week. This was a much more difficult period of time. So one thing that really stood out at me during that time period, and I'm sure you remember this, was how patriotic everybody became. American flags everywhere. There was no left, there was no right, there was just us. We were Americans, and we had been attacked, and we weren't going to take it. I remember that. I'm sure you do too. I don't know, what lessons have we learned? What have we learned since that day? You can't take anything for granted. Here again, there is much more sophisticated ways that our country could be damaged now, that people could be hurt. In 2001, they did it with box cutters and hijacking planes. It's mind baffling, you know? But so that was my story. I was laid off for, I think, I want to say 5 weeks because my unemployment was going to end after 6 weeks. And like a week, I had like a week left and they called me back and I was so relieved, you know? And 'cause I was walking around thinking, well, what do I do now? And then boom, I get the phone call. So thank goodness for that. Yeah. And what about you? What's your story of 9/11? I know you've all got them. I know you've got bigger stories than I do. And we'd love to hear them if you want to share them in the comments. You know, these stories have to be passed down from generation to generation. Where were you that day? What were you doing when you heard the news? You know, did your mother call you? Did your father call you? You know, and those, in our case, our moms and dads are probably long gone. Yeah. But that's my story of 9/11 and working at the Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas. And again, we survived, we moved on. It's been 25 years. And God willing, nothing like that ever happens again. If it does, I don't want to live to see it. You know? So with that, I'm going to let you go. My name is Suzanne Harper. The channel is A Sharper View. Thanks so much for stopping by and visiting me today. I'd love it if you'd subscribe to the channel. Give it a like. Give the video a like. And please leave a comment. Let me know where you're watching from, where you were that day when 9/11 happened. And, you know, if you were in New York especially, let us know. Let us know how you got through. Okay, in the meantime, I'll see you soon and you keep on doing you. Mwah. And I'll talk to you in the next one.